holidays, art friends! I'm here with Mr. Willyerd for another art lesson.
Thanks for sending us your work from the illuminated manuscript lesson. We were so happy to see all of your awesome artworks.
After looking through all the information about manuscripts and old books, I came across some really cool stuff about marbling papers and thought that would be a cool thing to try.
Hey, Ms. Perez, what if this week we decided to try marbling and make some cool postcards? Then we could send them out for the chickens!
Postcards from chickens, searching the world to find postcards from chickens. Hope we get a letter today.
For the chickens!
All right, so let's talk marbling paper. Marbling is a long-standing tradition that produces these exceptionally beautiful papers. Each paper is unique, like a snowflake, and no two marbled papers are alike, even when you use the same colors or the same method. Paper marbling allows you some control over the situation, as in color choice and what kind of design you want to attempt. But in the end, it's incredibly spontaneous, watching colors spread into different areas and cover the paper in different ways as the paper floats atop the water.
So excited to find out more.
Paper making used to be an art form that was kept a secret for over 400 years.
Wow.
It's been passed on through traditions, with origins found to be in Japan, where they used sumi inks floating atop the water, all the way through Turkey and Europe, starting with the Renaissance.
Marbling goes back further than I thought.
And Western art became popular in bookmaking. And then Charles Woolnow publishes a book called The Art of Marbling in 1853. And that's when paper making and paper marbling becomes a tradition anywhere it wants to be, because everyone now knows all the secrets that were hidden away for so long.
Woo! Thanks, Chuck.
Methods such as fanning, the use of styluses, and combs were used to create these unique patterns that were used at one time to prevent forgeries and erasures of documents, because no artist could make an exact replica of the patterns. Eventually, they were used for the edges of bank ledgers and other sorts of really important documents to make sure that no theft happened.
That's actually really smart.
And in turn, we get these beautiful, beautiful images of all different types of paper being created for all sorts of really interesting purposes.
I love how each one is unique, colorful, and really interesting to look at.
They're so beautiful in all their differences. You might even be able to tell the difference between what methods were used. This one on the left here looks like fanning was definitely used because of the ripples in the water that was used to create the pattern, while others might be more obviously used styluses or even combs.
I kind of want to try this.
There's so many different ways to create these papers, which leads me to our list of materials so that we can make postcards for the chickens. You're going to need cardstock, shaving cream, food color, masking tape, a ruler, and some newspaper. Mr. Willyerd and I are going to show you how to make some beautiful papers, just like we saw in our PowerPoint.
What? Me? Oh, I better get over there.
All right, so here are our materials that we're going to go through. I'm going to hand Mr. Willyerd everything that he needs and what you need for today's project. The first thing you're going to need is a can of shaving cream.
Thank you.
You're also going to need a ruler for the end part of our project, some paper, which I have some white cardstock here. I also have some colored cardstock, so in case you don't have white paper, either one of these is totally fine. We're going to use some newspaper to protect our area. I've got some masking tape so we can use it for some fun extra stuff that we'll show you guys later. And everyone's going to need a tray. You can use a baking tray. These are some like old meat trays that have not been used. We got them in a collection of stuff, so they're nice and clean, but you can also use a baking pan or some sort of other tray in your kitchen because you can wash it later. And then the last thing is I have food coloring and toothpicks for our colors. You can also use watercolor. Sometimes I have some liquid watercolor here that we can utilize for some stuff too. So different colors, lots of color, lots of things to use. All right.
Let's get started.
Let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my shaving cream. There we go. And I'm going to shake it up to make sure that it's nice and foamy on the inside so that I can fill my tray. And when I go to fill my tray, I can also, it's really weird. Is it,
Sorry.
You think it's ready?
Yep,
Okay.
it's ready. It's ready.
I'm going to fill the tray up with my shaving cream. Now, shaving cream is soap. It is not whipped cream. I get that question a lot. Can I eat it? No, you cannot, unless you really like the taste of soap. So, there's that. It's a good thing I have my newspaper and wipe my hands off on it. Actually, it's soap, so I can just rub it in my hands. So if you get shaving cream on your fingers, you're good. So the next thing now is I kind of have this pillow of shaving cream that's happening here on my tray. I'm going to go ahead and add some colors on there, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to dot my colors on there just by dripping them on. If I use food coloring, it's nice to have the liquid rather than the gel, but if you have gel food coloring, that could probably work out okay too. I'll be honest, I haven't tried it, so we'll find out.
I'm going to try the watercolor. Yeah. What's nice about the watercolor is that sometimes your colors are a little more intense. I think I'm out of green. This is purple.
So you'll notice how you leave some white space in between. I don't make my colors too close together because sometimes you want that in between space.
It gives a nice spread it out look of your colors.
Well, and later on when I make my design, you might be able to see some of it better too.
Yeah.
So you don't want too much color mixing happening so that your colors stand out a little bit better too. I'm going to do 3 colors because I don't know if I want to get too crazy. Now, if you want to add more, you can experiment and try some different things. But right now, all I have on here are just my dots, and you'll probably get some food coloring on your hands. I'm sure that'll wash off later too, so that's good. All right. So before we get started with anything else, we can talk about paper real quick. When I go to use my paper, I'm going to just kind of use my sheet here like this. I know Mr. Willyerd was pretty excited about the tape, so we'll talk a little bit about that. I can use masking tape to actually mask off areas of my paper, meaning that I cover it up so that maybe there's a white space left behind. I'm going to go ahead and tear a piece of tape right now. Mr. Willyerd, you can make one really quick if you want to.
Got it.
You're very prepared. Yep. All right. So with my tape, one of the things that I want to do is before I put on my paper, I can actually put it on my sweatshirt or on if I'm wearing a pair of jeans or some sort of other pants. And that makes my tape less sticky so that I can take it off later on. I'm actually going to just do this really random stripe in the center. There we go. Cool. I like it. Maybe the chickens will like it. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on there. And then I'm going to put my paper off to the side because now it's ready. And then I'm going to take a toothpick. You can do more than one if you want to. I'm just going to use the one. And I'm going to drag my toothpick through my colors. I can go back and forth. Which kind of gives you these different little like leaf patterns. I can also just swirl through the color, which is actually kind of what I like to do more. It spreads it out a little bit. And if you find that maybe you have too much white space, you can add a little bit of color before you print. So if you need to add more color from the little droplets or droppers, you can do that. I don't want to turn it too much because I want to make sure that I'm not mixing it. If I mix it, it's all going to turn into one color. I drag some of these out towards the edges.
It looks crazy.
It's pretty good. Alright. How's yours look, Mr. Willyerd?
Amazing. Like the best birthday cake ever.
Okay, but you can't eat it, remember it's soap.
That's right.
Alright. Then I'm going to take my paper. I'm going to put the side with the tape down towards my shaving cream. And when I go to place it on my shaving cream, I'm just going to gently place it right on the top. And I'm going to gently just tap or press with my fingers. I'm not going to like hit it down because you'll get shaving cream everywhere and you might actually ruin your design.
Yeah, we don't want to smash it.
No. And here's like one of my favorite parts. Once I have my paper on my tray, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to peel it off. And I don't want to peel it off slow because sometimes I can actually reuse what's there. But a lot of times you get one print only because, like we talked about earlier, marbled papers are one of a kind. So you might have to make some changes to your shaving cream after we peel this off. So I'm going to grab a corner and I'm just going to peel it back. Ooh, I probably could have pressed more in the center. The fun thing about marbling papers, and we talked about this in our information before, is that it's kind of spontaneous, so you don't always know what's going to happen. There's only so much you can control. I picked my colors and all that other good stuff, but now I'm going to take my ruler, and I'm going to scrape off the extra shaving cream. So just real quick, I'm just going to whip it across. There's my extra on my ruler. Ooh, Mr. Willyerd, yours looks really good.
Thank you.
And then I have my print on there. Now, if you think that you could go back and add more to it, sometimes you can find a clean area. So like on mine here, I have some areas that are still kind of clean. I can wipe off my ruler and my newspaper here. So on here I have some more. Mr. Willyerd, you want to share some of your paper with me real quick since your shaving cream tray is, well, not the one you just printed, but a new one.
Well, I take my paper.
No, you're good.
All right.
And I kind of have some spots on here that are still pretty clean. So I'm going to leave that one over there to dry. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of re-swirl some of my spots here because they're okay still. Mr. Willyerd would have to add more color to his just because he got a really good print out of his.
I used most of it.
You did, which is pretty common occurrence with this sort of project. So I'm going to take I'm going to take my regular paper and I'm going to place it on my paper. I'm going to try it again. I'm going to press a little more in the center this time, maybe tap it a little bit harder. And that's going to be the thing about this project, is it's going to be a little bit of trial and error, which is kind of nice because then you get multiple papers out of everything. So it's not kind of a one and done sort of a project. Alright, tapped it. I'm going to make sure. I'm going to peel it back this time. I'm going to go ahead and scrape. And that was a lot better this time. So now that I know kind of how my tray works and how the colors are going to show up, then I wind up with something that's a little bit more lasting there.
Like it.
So there you go. And then you can make all the papers you want to your little heart's content. So I share with you. I've done this with other colors. Or I've used pinks, other blues and purples. Sometimes I've left the shaving cream to just sit out kind of for a longer time with the color sitting in it, and I get some really interesting things like this. You'll see we used a lot of blue and purple. Purple and yellow. You have other colors where there's like bigger splotches of things, and those will kind of concentrate in one area where other colors might be lighter and somewhere else in here.
Nice.
That one has a little more color. I think this has 4 colors in it. Sometimes you get some color mixing happening in there. But the sky is the limit. You can kind of make all sorts of different types of papers, and with every time that you try it out, if the surface isn't any good or you have one that's like this, you just rinse it out and you do another layer, and then you do it again.
That's awesome. One thing also that I noticed is that Miss Perez's, she got her shaving cream to be very flat when she was spraying it in, so like the top of it was a very like more flat surface, whereas mine was like bumpy because I hadn't done this a lot before, and so I had kind of a little bit of a bump, so I had to like press my paper down into it to be able to conform to the shaving cream a little bit, so that I did get a more solid print on my thing. Otherwise, if you don't get it pressed down, it's going to turn out you're going to have splotchy marks and not be able to get the whole coverage of the paper.
And that's what happened right here in the center. I didn't quite press it down the first time, but when I did the second time, I got way more.
Yeah. Cool.
Alright, well, I hope that the chickens really like our postcards that we're going to make and send out to them.
It's going to turn out so good.
Many hours later.
So after hours and hours of paper making, I have all sorts of papers to choose from. So I'm going to take this one paper that I have that I like particularly. This one got a lot of really good coverage, and it's all over the paper. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually fold it and make it into a card. So once they've dried, they're actually, the color stays, it doesn't come off. I'm going to fold it in half, making sure that the corners match up and the edges of my paper. Make sure I got the fold. I always like to use my thumbnail for that. And now I have a card that's ready to go. I can write a special message to our chicken friends.
That'll be so cool. And I love that you can make the card and give it to anyone for the holidays. You can give it to like someone for as a gift and say, I made this paper and this awesome design on here. It doesn't take a lot of effort other than just shaving cream and pushing something down and then waiting for it to dry. So that's really cool.
It's a great idea, Mr. Willyerd. I think I might actually do this year for the holidays.
That's awesome.
So there you have it. Making these papers is actually really easy and slightly addicting. Once you start, you want to see what the other color possibilities are, or the other ways that you can drag the toothpick through the shaving cream. On that note, we would love to see what your creations are when you're all done. Why don't you send Mr. Willyerd and I a postcard or a card that you make yourself using your marbled papers? We'd love to see your work in person. You can just leave it at the address on our screen and then go ahead and send that to us, or you just go ahead and take pictures and send it to us through email. We'll see you guys next time. Hopefully next week you guys will see that we have a new winter lesson. You can see also the fruits of our labor there, that ink that's on my thumb there. But we hope that you guys have a wonderful holiday break. We'll see you guys in Q3. And don't forget, there's a special lesson next week for our winter lesson. See you guys next time.
Enjoy your holiday!